Hi everyone, welcome to First Phase Media. I am Mark, and today I'm going to interview Ryan Jackson, CEO of Newlox Gold, a gold producer company generating revenue in Central America. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good to be on the show, Mark.
So could you say a bit of history about your company?
Yes, absolutely. We have a good origin story. The original idea for the company came many years ago. I was working as an intern for a junior exploration company in Central America, and there were tailings everywhere we went, all through the jungle. Wasn't my great idea. I was just getting coffee at the time, but some of our guys took samples of that material, and it actually came back at very high grade. We didn't know why the waste was so high grade, but it was quite shocking. It actually was a higher grade than the mine plan we were developing at that time. And that idea percolated in our mind over many years and eventually became Newlox Gold.
Okay, and could you say where Newlox Gold operations are located?
Yes, the first two projects, one in production and one in construction, are both in Costa Rica. This is a very good spot for us to start. It's got great infrastructure. It's very politically stable and a very nice location for us to start.
And so, Ryan, why is it strategic to be in Costa Rica?
Costa Rica is a fantastic place for Newlox Gold to get started. And the reason is we're an ESG company and we're uniquely able to operate in what is the most environmentally sensitive country in the Americas. Costa Rica has great infrastructure. It's got an excellent workforce. It's politically stable. It's been a democracy since the 1940s. And also we benefit from that green movement in Costa Rica. In fact, it has 98% renewable energy. And just by virtue of being connected to the grid, Newlox Gold also has that 98% renewable electricity.
Awesome. Okay, very interesting. And now, if we focus a little bit about your sector, the artisanal gold, how big is the sector?
The artisanal sector is a $27 billion business annually, and it represents 20% of annual gold supply globally. This is quite an interesting thing because, competing with the large gold companies that everybody hears about on the news, these are often small operations using antiquated technology with limited access to capital, and they're actually producing 20% of the global supply. This is an area that is ripe for investment and also for improvement from both a financial as well as an environmental and social aspect.
Okay, and now we're gonna dive a little bit more about the human side, about you and the management team. So about you, why did you start Newlox Gold?
So for us, there's a couple of reasons why we started Newlox Gold. From a personal point of view, this company brings together my interests with our family business. My family has been in the resource industry for a long time, but I'm an environmental scientist by training. And so Newlox Gold brings together a focus on the environment with the precious metals industry. And so that's the very personal reason. Apart from that, of course, there are financial reasons. For me, I'm a young guy who's coming into the business, and it's an exciting time to get started with a junior company and build something real, build something that delivers value for shareholders as well as for all stakeholders in a financial, environmental, and social manner.
Okay, and to you, so what does a successful Newlox Gold look like to you and the management team?
Yeah, so a successful Newlox Gold is a few different things, and I guess we'll start with the financial end of things. Newlox Gold is primarily it's a for-profit business. It's designed to generate value for its shareholders as well as all stakeholders. This is something that we're very excited about, and so this is very important. In addition to that, Newlox Gold has the opportunity to deliver environmental and social benefits to stakeholders, another thing that our team is very passionate about. And then, of course, finally, looking to the long term, what are the prospects? Many junior companies are looking for a takeover, they're looking for M&A or for an exit. From our point of view, we're building Newlox for the long term. We think that it can grow into something that is a fantastically successful business that we've always thought could deliver returns back to shareholders in the form of dividends once it's a larger company. and at the same time could run for many years, expand to multiple jurisdictions, and deliver both those, all of those financial, social, and environmental benefits into local communities all around the world, as well as its shareholders here in North America, as well as around the world.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I hope it's going to be a great future indeed, if it's going that way. And you
Thank
were
you.
you were talking about your team. So how experienced is your team?
Yeah, so we have a fantastic team. There's two aspects to it. There's the North American, Canada-based part of the team, and then there's the Central American part of the team. And mirroring those, there is the corporate side and the operational side. On the corporate side in Canada, we have myself and a small team of directors. Personally, I have experience in the resource world, as well as technical experience with my environmental science, bringing that knowledge to the team. Backing me up here in Canada, we have two directors who are experienced in either side of that. With Gary McDonald, who has over 25 years of experience in the public resource world, and then and David Karkik, who has over 25 years of experience in good corporate governance and company management, as well as financial management. And so that's really the Canadian corporate side of the team. In Costa Rica, we have Jeffrey Benavides. Again, he straddles that line. He's the company's CFO, but he's also country manager for Costa Rica. And he's worked with our family for many years, very reliable, very trustworthy, and he is both an accountant and an engineer. So bringing those skills together. And then we have Wilmer, who is he was hired this year, and he is a fantastic operations manager and is running both the Plant 1 ramp up and Plant 2 construction. Again, a massive amount of experience, both with private companies, including 1,000-ton per day operation in Brazil, and working with NGOs as well as companies and governments, working with the US State Department, the United Nations, and many other groups on mineral technology and mineral development and operation projects.
Okay, and in your opinion, what is it about this team that gives you confidence that they can create a successful Newlox Gold?
Well, for us, I think that over the last couple of years, we've seen a huge amount of uncertainty, both in the financial markets, but also just at the world in general. I think that over the past couple of years, I would have been in a very uncomfortable situation if I had operators on the ground who I didn't have trust and confidence in. And that's been really a godsend for myself and for the company. And really that comes down to Jeffrey and the team that he works with in Central America. They are a team that has worked with myself and my family over many years with many other businesses, some of which have been successful and some of which have not. And over that time, we've developed a team in Central America that we can trust and we know are able to do the job. And so that's been very important to me over the last couple of years when travel was limited. We knew that the people we had on the ground were trustworthy and able to execute. Okay,
now let's dive in more in the Newlox Gold company, and we're gonna discuss the projects. About your first project, the Oro Roca. What level of productivity has the company reached to date? And also, what's the plans to increase output?
Yeah, so at Project One, the numbers are a little bit old because we do announce our results with our financial statements. But in the last quarter that we did announce was Q3, and we showed 145% quarter over quarter increase in productivity. That was from $319,000 or so up to $784,000 or so. For us, that was a good result. It had, the market responded well to it. However, we thought that we would be growing a little bit faster than that. That being said, it's a fantastic result, and basically it got us right to the precipice of break even and profitability for the company. So while we don't have fresher numbers, what I can say is that we have been improving productivity on a month-over-month basis since the end of the third quarter. And so from our perspective, we're certainly going in the right direction.
Okay, and do you know what would be your full-scale production in the first project?
Yeah, so project one should reach about 6,500 ounces of gold per year at full scale. That is at 80 tons per day and 90% plus productivity. And that sort of results somewhere in, depending on the gold price you use, we tend to be a little bit conservative, but that basically works out to around $10 million a year in revenue from the first project.
Okay. And so dollar wise, how much does it cost to you to produce 1 ounce of gold at this plant?
Yeah, so right now cash costs have been very low for the project. That can be seen in those last quarterly numbers that our revenues, when you compare them and look through, the margins are very high. Now we're expecting those margins to get a little bit tighter, however, still remain really good. So currently our cost per ounce is, our all-in cost per ounce is quite a bit below $600. But we're looking that in the future, it should be somewhere around $700 all-in cash cost per ounce is what we're expecting at full scale.
Okay. And about gold, because so do you know what's the gold price and your macro thought about the sector?
Yeah, so I try not to get too far into the macros for the large scale of the global economy and the gold price, because to a certain extent it's past my purview. But we do all have opinions and we do all read things, and it's kind of an interesting situation. I would have expected the gold price to be higher by now, considering what's happening in the global economy. I know that there's some big moves happening out there. I mean, we just recently read that JP Morgan increased their holdings in gold derivatives by 1,000% in 3 months. And the question mark in these sorts of things becomes, well, what exactly are these gold derivatives, and how does this work? And who are the other players in this game? I think that there's some really high level stuff going on in the gold industry at the pricing level and at the especially in the paper markets. But that being said, we would expect a higher gold price. I do believe it's gonna continue to increase, and that'll all be very good for Newlox Gold.
Mhm.
However, that being said, we like to see the highest gold price possible, because the higher it goes, of course, our margins get better. But unlike many producers, we actually have really fantastic margins. So we're not afraid of a low gold price. We just like to see a high gold price.
Mhm. Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, right. And now let's discuss your second project, the Boston project. Could you give some highlights about this project?
Yeah, so I guess really the top level highlights for Boston is fully permitted, low capex. Capex is fully funded, in construction, and will be operational this year. So those are the main things. Very exciting time for us. Our strategy is to always have one project being constructed while the other ones are ramping up to full scale. So very exciting. Project one in production, project two in construction, soon to be starting testing and operations.
And so when do you expect this one to start producing?
So we will finish construction probably fairly soon, but certainly this year. And then we'll be ramping up to full scale productivity next year.
Okay. And when targeting this project, what were the minimum grades you need in order for it to be economically viable?
So we actually have not designed this based on minimum grades. The grades that we've published are selected because these are grades that are quite common and easy to get in our area. So the first plant is operating in tailings at 9 grams per ton, not because that's the minimum that we need to be profitable at the project level, but because 9 grams is something that we can get consistently without too much trouble. And again, for project two with raw material, the grades are higher than in the tailings. So we've said that the cutoff is 15 grams. That's an extremely high grade in the resource industry. And the reason we selected it is because that is a comfortable grade that is easy to get when looking at what the local miners are producing.
And so you were talking about the capex. So do you still have one on that project?
Yes. So for project two, the capex was approximately 2 million US dollars. The majority of the capex has been spent. There might be around 150 or $200,000 that's still being spent now, but we're pretty far along. And actually, that's a very good thing. We've seen a huge amount of inflation in materials in Central America. For example, steel is up 400% in Costa Rica. So we're quite pleased that almost all of the spending as far as purchasing equipment and that sort of thing is done, and now we're just putting it together and implementing.
And with the Boston project and Aurora both at full scale, what is your projected annual gold production?
So between the first two projects, both at full scale, we should be producing somewhere around 26,500 ounces of gold per year. And for us, that would be quite a monumental achievement.
Okay, and based on this, what would your annualized revenue forecast be?
Well, I guess using around a 1650 gold price, we would see about $44 million per year in revenues.
Okay, and so could you provide a figure of what your profit would be at this point?
So unfortunately, 43101 rules do not allow me to make any projections or give sort of forward-looking statements about profitability. However, we do believe that each of the projects is going to be very successful. When you're looking at margins and you're looking at break-evens and how we might do, what I would sort of give as guidance is that if you look at the third quarter results that the company put out recently, you'll see that that project was operating at about 1/4 of the final full-scale operations. And it was just sort of it was just shy of profitability at that time. So when you consider that operating at around 1/4 of the full scale, we were basically crossing the threshold into profitability, you can sort of extrapolate out from there and see that these projects are designed to have very strong margins. And that's what we expect going forward.
Okay, so because we can go in the future statements and discuss them, let's talk about the previous one. So you reported your earnings, sorry, 4 months ago. So how have they increased quarter over quarter?
Yes. So at that time, we reported 145% quarter over quarter revenue growth. And that was from around $320,000 to $784,000 quarter over quarter. That was a good, exciting result for us. And since then, we have continued to improve productivity month over month. And so, you can see that we're really on the right track here.
Mm-hmm. And so because you are actually producing, so what is your cash flow from production?
Yeah, so cash flow from production, we will have more information coming out. The fourth quarter will be coming out at the end of the month, so that'll be the coming update. However, so I can't really answer that until we get to the next one.
So the company almost has 3 million in cash. How do you plan to use it in the future?
Yes, for us, this is really important, especially considering current market conditions. Having a strong treasury is one of the most important things that you can see in a company. It is a very bad time to be out there looking for cash if you're underfinanced. So it's very important for us. That treasury is going to be used to achieve our near-term goals. That is completing the ramp up of Project One. That basically doesn't require inputs of cash anymore, as we saw in the third quarter numbers. And then construction of Project Two. This is almost done, and it'll be operating later this year. So that's very exciting. And then Project Three, we've talked about looking at projects for growth, both in Brazil and Colombia. We've devoted quite a lot of focus on these over the last couple of months. And so really it's about lowering our risk, making sure that we have a strong treasury to endure anything that might come as far as difficulties in the public markets, and at the same time achieving our near-term goals without having to go to the market to look for cash, especially in a difficult time like this.
All right. About your share structure, what is the percentage held by insiders?
So formal insiders hold approximately 20% of the shares currently. And then that's pretty much what you'll see on SETI. And apart from that, there's about 25% more or so that's held by what we call friendly hands, many of which are the founding investors of the company. So between the combination of those two, there's quite a lot of strength in the insiders.
Yeah, indeed. And do you have any institutions on board?
So this is an interesting thing. Uh, we don't have that much institutional. There is a little bit, and we greatly appreciate the brokers and money managers who have come in to date because they are very much believers. However, because the company is not following the standard path for junior resource companies with 43101 and exploration, it has been a great challenge to bring institutional investors to the company. But although that's been a challenge for us historically as far as securing financing, I think there's a big shift that's going to happen in Newlox Gold soon. And this is something that's going to be to the benefit of all shareholders. And that is the institutionalization of Newlox Gold. With the revenues coming through, hopefully becoming a medium-sized gold producer in the medium term. But even before that, being a junior miner that's in production and producing revenues puts us on the radar. And that institutionalization of Newlox Gold, we believe, will be a level up for the company.
Okay. And about your warrants, so the company has 30 million of them. And according to your financial statement, you usually exercise them. What's the strategy behind this?
Yes, so warrants are a very important part of Newlox Gold's financing strategy. When we print a warrant, it's something that basically is a future financing in our minds. And it's a financing that all of the legal and all of the finder's fees and regulatory fees, everything has already been paid for by the time those warrants are coming through. So for us, it represents a really good way to raise money. And this is something that's been very important to us. As we've learned over the last few years, there's all sorts of unusual events that happen globally that can impact your ability to raise money. The markets go up, the markets go down, and these things happen unpredictably and quite dramatically. And so for us, we're very proud of what we were able to accomplish over the last year, which is that we basically spent capex. We did work all year, and we ended with a treasury just as strong as we started with in 2021. And for us, that's very important. And so warrants for us represent a big part of our financing strategy. And so far, it's been a mechanism that has rewarded the company, but also the shareholders who have come in and supported the company on the financing. They've been able to make a profit and get a good return off of those warrants. So we're very happy with that strategy.
And about your capex, in the future, could it be fully funded by your profits?
Yes, absolutely. And it really depends when you look at how much money we're expecting or we'd like to have come through from future warrants, how much money we expect to come through revenue, and what the capex on future projects look like. It's certainly possible. The other thing to remember is that it's always a lot easier to raise part of the money for something than all of the money for something. And so even if we were building a larger scale facility and if we had half the money for something, it would be a lot easier considering that we have built revenues that we could fund things in non-dilutive ways as well. It really opens up the possibilities. So smaller capexes, absolutely, we expect we can fund them internally. And if we do have larger capexes in the future, I think that we will have lots of options in how to raise that money.
Okay, and last question about the share side. So on what exchanges is Newlox Gold traded?
So Newlox is currently traded on the CSE here in Canada, LUX on the Canadian Securities Exchange, and also NGO on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Those are the two primary. The company also does trade on the Pinks in the US.
And so why did you decide to be traded in Frankfurt?
Yes, so for us, right at the beginning of the company, we had quite a few European investors who were part of the founding investors in the company, both in the UK as well as in Germany and some other areas in Europe. So it was important to us to have that European listing. We also find that German investors tend to be long-term investors who really believe in the company and have been good supporters for us.
Now about the future, like future forecast. So what are the company's ambitions, middle and long term?
Yeah, so there's a few things. The main one right on the top of our presentation is we plan to become a mid-tier gold producing company. We consider that to be 145,000 ounces per year. And we plan to do that through organic growth, reinvesting internally, funding ourselves and building new projects, as well as diversifying those projects into multiple jurisdictions. We've talked about Colombia, we've talked about Brazil, and we've talked about Ecuador in the past as well, and beyond. So the idea is to grow this company into a country diversified, medium scale gold producer. And at the same time, I talked a little bit earlier about institutionalizing the company. This is something that's very important to us as well. We have a very nice group of mostly private investors, retail investors who have supported the company, have a huge amount of confidence in the company's business model. But getting that institutional investment into the company in the future is going to be a big level up for the company for the benefit of all stakeholders. And I do think that part of that is going to be providing return and providing dividends. And that's something that Newlox has always intended to do. As a junior company, you always have to weigh growth against dividends. And so for now, of course, we're focused on growth as we get towards that larger scale, both in Costa Rica and abroad. But at a certain point, we do plan to start paying dividends, and that will put us on the radar of a whole new set of investors as well as a whole new set of institutions. And we expect that process will really be beneficial to all of our stakeholders. In addition to the financial, there's also the environmental side of things. And so Newlox Gold does provide environmental benefits to all stakeholders. And so by growing both through Newlox Gold projects, as well as potentially through joint venture partnerships and or equipment or technology agreements with other institutions, we think that Newlox can really do a lot of good from the environmental perspective.
Okay, and to summarize the interview, so what would you say your company's strengths are, and what would you highlight?
So I think the most important things to consider about Newlox Gold is it's well funded, it's in production, it's growing, it's very close to profitable according to the latest numbers, and it's stable. Those are very important things going in, especially in a bear market. One of the things that I'll just say is that Newlox has a massive amount of differentiation. On the first page of our presentation, it says a junior gold producer and ESG junior gold producer. And those are big differentiations. First of all, a real environmental gold producer is very difficult to find. We provide environmental benefits for every ounce of gold we produce. Number two, there are very few producing junior gold companies, so that's a differentiation. And then of course that growth, and that's what gets us excited in the markets. So I think we have a very good blend of very unique attributes that set us apart from our peers.
And for the end of the year, so for Q3 and Q4, what are your key objectives?
Key objectives for us are to build production and grow. Very, very simple things. We are well funded to do that. So production is increasing every month, and we're planning to add new projects to the company. So production and growth are the main targets for Newlox Gold.
Well, awesome. It was my last question. It was very informative. I was actually also very excited to know more about Newlox Gold, like a lot of great opportunities in the future. So yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, it's a good set of questions, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks again for everything, and looking forward to see your company's future.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Have a good one.